Well, hello again, everybody. This is John Norris at Trading Perspectives. As always, we have our good friend Sam Clement. Sam, say hello.
John, how are you doing?
Sam, I'm doing absolutely fantastically. However, I'm not exactly sure if I could answer your question if you were to ask me exactly how is the U.S. consumer doing.
You get kind of different answers, and you have different companies coming out saying things are slowing for us, and others saying this is the strongest it's been, and shifting consumers and what they're buying. And so everybody can, it's kind of like a Rorschach test. Everyone can get what they want out of the data that we have.
And you hit the nail on the head with that, because it's either feast or famine, or so it would seem. You go to certain stores and it's bursting at the seams, and other stores are empty. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because the data does seem a little conflicted. I mean, it really does. What was the most recent advanced retail sales? I think it was 1%.
1%.
Which was shockingly high.
It was several sigmas off of what the market.
I mean, very high. However, then, we get news in the local media that Macy's, it's closing its store at the River Chase Galleria. And what's going on if Macy's is doing that, closing its last store in the state of Alabama? But you go to the Target and the Walmart and the Sam's and the Costco, it's just jammed with people. The last thing you want to do is actually go to the Costco out there at the River Chase Galleria anytime on Saturday. Or even Sunday. You can't
it's
get
incredible
can't
how
the Sam's Clubs, which I frequent, they're groaning with people, and yet some of the bigger department stores, maybe not so much.
Yeah, and even when if you read earnings reports and get really into the weeds and hear what these companies are saying, they're talking about different areas. You know, Walmart's a great example. They sell everything. And so you're seeing customers choosing in different areas and less of some areas and more of some areas. And so consumers are just kind of, it seems like everyone's kind of, figuring things out and figuring out what's important and what makes sense. Because we've talked about it since almost probably 2 years ago at this point, when inflation first became a topic, that it's this snowball that the longer it goes on, the harder just intuitively, the harder it gets. Prices aren't coming down. You're stretching your budget. And your wages may be picking up some, and for some people they may be doing better. But overall, you're kind of holding on, and your
kind
grips.
of work down that little rainy day fund enough where this is feeling a little bit too uncomfortable now. And it's important that you brought up that snowball effect, because I've already mentioned the Macy's closing in Birmingham. The Fresh Market had 2 locations in Birmingham, closed down one out in the Inverness area, leaving it one here in the Birmingham market. Conversely, a couple of weeks ago, I guess it is now, Walmart had its most recent earnings report. Was that last week? I forget. And what they said was, it was great. They saw nice increase in year-over-year sales, same-store sales, and in the comments section, both the CEO and I think the CFO commented about how what they're seeing is higher income people coming to the stores and more people getting new Sam's memberships. I think it was something like a 14.4% increase in the second quarter in terms of Sam's memberships. And so when I hear that, I'm going, And then Target came out, I think today, talking as a fan, or yesterday, they had a great second quarter. I mean, same-store comps up 3%, very much in line with what Walmart had said the previous week. Conversely, I've already mentioned Macy's once closing down their store in Birmingham. That's the third time I've mentioned it. But they
big Macy's guy.
Well, they recently had their quarterly earnings report, and it was a disaster. Talk about, store sales down 3%, people aren't coming in, units aren't moving. Also, Dillard's, which is another major department store chain headquartered in Little Rock, their second quarter reports, the CEO didn't even try to put lipstick on that pig, just said, we're disappointed in them.
We saw Starbucks, they're kind of in a little bit of turmoil, but they had back-to-back quarters of kind of pulling back consumers. And so it's but then you have the Home Depot guiding a little bit better than expected and Lowe's guiding worse than expected. And so you really can, Target, people have, I think whether this is even accurate or not, people think of Walmart as the lower end and Target as the higher end.
That's intentional. I think Target has try to position itself.
More discretionary than staples.
And the Target report said that apparel sales were through the roof and all that stuff. Conversely, Walmart sales said groceries and things of that end are absolutely just through the roof. So people are still shopping without a doubt, but it does seem as though they're shopping at the lower cost provider as opposed to where the discretionary money would have ordinarily go, your Macy's, your Dillard's, your other stores of that nature.
It's, there's several trends. You have inflation, what's happening there. You have trends with what consumers have done really since COVID.
Yeah.
We've seen Walmart talk about their Walmart Plus and the growth with online there. And so it's kind of like the cream of the crop, the cream rises. Companies that have managed these last couple years, Walmart's been one of the best performing stocks in the market that doesn't sell semiconductors. And so companies that are managing their balance sheet well, their growth well, they're being
staying
more
focused on their business model.
Focused on their business, focused on where consumers are headed. Those companies are kind of doing fine. Okay. The Macy's and the Dillard's of the world, I wouldn't go to one there was one right down the street.
Yeah.
And I never went to it. I went to it once when they were going out of business.
All right. Now, this is the point in the program where I've got to mention that Oakworth Capital Bank is a relatively major owner. Relatively speaking, if not in absolute terms, and certainly in relative terms of Walmart. We own that across client accounts and then has a position in all of our strategies. However, conversely, we are not major holders of Macy's or Dillard's. I don't believe we have any of those shares on our system whatsoever, and what have you. So
don't make a market in any of them.
Don't make a market in any of them, and no offers to buy or sell securities or anything like that. So, you're right about that. And Sam, I've told you and time again, and you certainly learned this in all of your educational upbringing and what have you. You compete on business in one of two different ways. You either compete on price or you can compete on product and service. There's just nothing in between. And so if there is something in between, you're stuck in the middle. You're not really effectively competing. And I would say those stores which are going to continue to get hammered, and not in a good way, by the way, Sam, are those that are kind of stuck in the middle. Walmart, Target, we know how they lead. Primarily on price. Target would like to say, well, we have, better products but they're a price leader. No one goes into Target looking to buy, Bulova watches or anything like that. Conversely, on the upper end, probably a lot of non-publicly traded companies. You have people that, hey, this is our product to serve. This is what we're going to buy. Luxury automotive dealers. Those are the ones. But in the middle, Macy's,
and it's
Dillard's,
a
Kohl's,
retail. That's what I was talking about.
Nordstrom
with the since COVID, the service model has changed, and they were behind the times on. People are not. That is a trend that I'm convinced is never going back outside of maybe very luxury high end of you going to stores to purchase the majority of what you buy. That trend is dead to me.
I would also say that apartment stores just in general have not done themselves any favors, because the fact I can go into a Dillard's, I can go into a Macy's, I can go into just any Belk or whatever it is now. I can go into any department store and essentially find the exact same products at the exact same price points.
Yeah.
There's no differentiation between it. It's you want Tommy Hilfiger, Nautica, Ralph Lauren. You can get them anywhere.
Yeah.
And they have their own stores too.
And the other trend we've seen beyond that is the shift of goods versus services.
Yeah.
We've talked about that tons of times. I think it was last summer, Delta CEO saying no one's coming back to the office because they're on our planes. But there was some truth to that, and I don't think I think that's probably also an area where there's articles about the booming industry of Americans traveling to Europe.
Yes.
And that's maybe slowing down a little. Anecdotally, I haven't seen it slow down.
You know, I don't know how often you're on Instagram, but every time I go on Instagram, it seems like my niece and all of her friends are somewhere in Europe.
I mean, we did it last summer. It's
not you.
Yes, me. But so you have this change in consumer priorities. To me, that's a healthy thing. I've always leaned in that camp of experiences are more important.
You know, I would tell you. I mean, just little things that we all know about. The amount of money people are spending to go to concerts, to go to a Taylor Swift show. What is this? The world's longest tour?
Yeah, Taylor Swift and Beyonce literally stimulated the economy.
I mean,
it showed up in the data that the Fed had to talk about it.
But the thing about it is, if you're sort of maybe a second quartile income earner, and you've got to drop what, $1,000 to go to see Taylor Swift, guess what?
I think it's thousands.
You know, you're probably not going to go to the fresh market. You're probably going to take a look at the Walmart to see, to see what they're selling over there. And I get it. I certainly get it. So I would say that because the experiences have become so popular, travel's become so popular, concerts have become so popular, just events, just experiences, just I'm going to go do this. Every time I hear about a younger person, and particularly taking a vacation, it's always some sort of wow factor to it in my estimation.
Yeah.
Money's got to come from somewhere. Mm-hmm. You got to save the money from somewhere, and as a result, guess what? People are going to the big box retailers and the like, and I think we're going to see a lot of sort of those stuck in the middle. Retailers are going to just have a devil of a time until that trend changes.
And I'm not sure when that trend's going to change. And then the last trend, I think, on top of this, the inflation's the one that is near every day impacting consumers. We've talked about the change in priorities for spending, how people shop. I think the other big one, and we've talked about this a little bit in this inflation conversation, is the haves and the have-nots and this wealth transfer that's going on. That is also boosting spending on the have side of things. So you're having these people that, frankly, inflation has just boosted their balance sheets, and these are the boomers, the silent generation, what have you, these people that are now passing assets on to the next generation. They're the best they've ever been.
Man,
the market's at an all-time high.
You tell me that. I mean, where's my money? Come on.
But the market's at an all-time high. Inflation is good for the market.
Oh, without doubt.
So the haves have assets. Inflation is good for the haves. The have-nots, inflation is bad for.
The data would suggest that clearly the top 5, top 10%, if not the top 1 or top 1/10 of 1%, have crushed it. Over the last several years, have absolutely crushed it. I think we've probably seen the Gini coefficient get to its highest level of all time.
Probably, yeah.
By the time the dust settled and the smoke clears. However, even with those folks, I think there's going to be a change in spending patterns. I mean, again, going back to, okay, I want to do this. Last year, Beth and I went to go see U2 in Las Vegas. I mean, I wouldn't have done that 3 years ago. You kidding me? But in order to pay it, hey, little jam sandwiches, that's a hyperbole and all that stuff. But you do start thinking about it a little bit. Hey, I'm doing this. I've got to cut some money back from someplace else. And really, maybe not so long ago, those same people are there paying thousands to go see Beyonce, paying thousands to go see Taylor Swift, traveling to Europe to go to the Olympics. They wouldn't have thought twice about paying $2 for a box of Kraft macaroni and cheese somewhere when it's $1.50 at the store next door. Now all of a sudden they're going to that store next door that's selling it for $1.50, if you catch my drift, because a lot of these stores don't sell anything any different than anyone else. They're just selling at different price points.
Yeah, I agree.
So I think we are seeing a change in consumer patterns as your upper incomes are still spending money on experiences, maybe super high-end type things, and in order to get the money to do that, they're being a little bit more conscious on those day in and day out products, which have been killing the lower income classes. And now all of a sudden, upper incomes, in order to do all the stuff they want to do, they're being a lot more cost conscious on things like the grocery store, the gas station, and all that unfun stuff that we have to purchase.
Yeah, a lot of that, though, I agree, is kind of what helps bring inflation down, though.
It is.
Inflation can become a self-fulfilling, I guess prophecy is not the right word, because it ruins itself by the fact that it can do it softly or quickly, and one's okay, and that's what we're still kind of talking about, whether we're in a soft landing or not, whether it impacts consumers enough to where they pull back a little, and these staples companies don't have the pricing power. And I think we're past that point.
Yes.
We've seen these staples companies, prices are coming down. We've seen fast food companies talking about $5 deals. This is not, that sounds anecdotal, but it's not. They have all of them have talked about.
It's not anecdotal when the CEO of McDonald's a couple of weeks ago says, moving forward, they're going to be focusing on value.
Yes.
We've seen flat out said it in the earnings report. They're going to be focusing on their value.
We've seen PepsiCo talk about they don't have. I mean, for quarters they had this top line growth with no sales growth.
Yes.
They were growing purely off of pricing power, and that is not. We have reached a point where that is not applicable. Consumers are not just allowing companies to raise prices as much as they want.
You know, all the people would say that inflation is definitely a monetary phenomenon. I mean, it is. And let me get to that in a second. You still can't escape the good old-fashioned supply-demand curve, right? Mm-hmm. You know, inflation is a monetary phenomenon because people have more money to spend, therefore demand goes up, and
it's another snowball effect.
It's another snowball effect, and they want to get rid of their depreciating money as fast as they can, so demand goes up. If supply doesn't go up as rapidly as demand does, and prices increase. Now, what's happening now is, I would say, all that funny money that the Washington threw at us in 2020, and particularly in 2021, we've kind of drawn that down a decent amount, at least throughout many households. Maybe not the top 5, 10, 15, 20%, but everyone else is kind of drawn down on that. So they're feeling pinched. But now we're seeing upper-end consumers starting to be a little bit more cost-conscious, and as a result, what we're going to see is demand for these products, these upper-end products, is going to go down. So inflation is going to start coming down,
and it has,
as upper-end consumers shift from the fresh market. Not to pick on the fresh market, but I am picking on the fresh market. As people shift from the fresh market to the Walmart to do their grocery shopping, that will have a virtuous effect of bringing down prices across the entire grocery store sector.
And we've seen it. This is already...
Yeah, I'm starting to see it. I hate to admit it. I like to admit it, but I hate to admit it because you and I have gone on and on about this. I'm starting to see it. I mean, listen, they're not dropping like a stone, but it's obvious to me. I can now get a couple of deals at the grocery store, you know, and it's been within really the last 3 or 4 weeks. I mean, it's like I'm starting to see a few deals at the grocery store. Okay, maybe Duke's mayonnaise is still priced a little bit higher than I would like, but it's not going up anymore. And the BOGOs, who doesn't love a good BOGO? The BOGOs are far more frequent than they used to be.
But even in the broader data that we get, I mean, you take housing out of it, inflation is back to the target.
Except for that homeowners insurance and car insurance. My goodness.
Well, that's a one-time.
That's killing me,
It's
man.
a one-time late cycle thing.
Come on, that one time just keeps on giving and giving. Just absolutely horrible.
Fair enough.
You know how I feel about that?
But this is the cycle of inflation. We've seen it take place. I mean, we talked about when inflation was at 8 and 9%. We were talking about it probably actually being higher than that.
Yeah,
for the same reason that now I am arguing that it is lower than the headline data suggests.
Well, I'm not sure just how well the BLS does in terms of calculating in the BOGOs and the 50% offs and all that type of stuff. I don't know how good a job they do with that. I really don't. Or what they do with the substitution baskets, you just have to take their word for it, and the weightings and what have you. I will tell you, grocery store prices are still too high for the average American, but they're not the problem. At least the growth in prices is not going to be the problem that it has been. moving forward, and whoever wins the election in November is going to be able to claim a massive victory over food inflation next year, although they did absolutely nothing about it because it was coming down on their own.
I agree.
What do you think about that?
I think that's spot on.
Oh, man, I tell you. All right. Well, guys, we love to hear from you all, so if you have any comments or questions, please, by all means, let us know. You can always drop us a line at tradingperspectives@oakworth.com, where you can leave us a review on the podcast outlet of your choice. If you're interested in reading more or hearing more of what we have to say or how we think, you can always go to oakworth.com, OAKWORTH.com. Take a look underneath the Thought Leadership tab and find links to all kinds of exciting information, including links to previous Trading Perspectives episodes, links to our newsletter/blog Common Sense, comes out every Friday, and then links to quarterly analysis, which we internally call macro and market, as well as all kinds of exciting information about personal financial planning and a number of different topics. Please, by all means, go take a look underneath our Thought Leadership tab and find all that exciting information. All right, Sam, a last chance to say something super meaty on this exciting topic.
That's all I've got.
That's all I've got today, too. Y'all take care.